You may have already heard the very sad news that one of Genshin's lead composers, Yu-Peng Chen, has resigned from Hoyo-Mix, meaning he will not be working on Genshin Impact. From a rough translation of his own message, it's more or less just he wants to pursue his own creative dreams, and he needs to leave the company to do that. This is a very common thing we see, especially in the game development world, where eventually people want to move on. We also see this in film and literally any field on the planet. There will always be people who eventually need to make a tough decision of leaving something very successful because they want to do something maybe more personally fulfilling. And if that's what he wants, then I wish him the best, because he is a truly talented composer. He has helped make a soundtrack that I consider to be among some of the best soundtracks that I've ever heard in games, and I have a lot. Regular viewers of my channel know that there's always some kind of background music going on, and I pull from all kinds of different games. And one thing you probably might have noticed is I rarely, if ever, use anything that comes from Genshin Impact, and that is not because the music is not good. Genshin is probably in my top 10. It is an amazing soundtrack. The only reason I don't use it is because we're playing Genshin. I'm making Genshin videos, and we all hear this music all the time. Not that it gets repetitive or I don't want to hear it, I just like exposing people to other music. I love it when you guys in the comments recognize the music I'm using, especially when it's from something incredibly niche, such as Ragnarok Battle Offline, a soundtrack that I use quite frequently. But to bring it back to Genshin Impact, Yu-Peng Chen's work, and I apologize if I'm butchering the pronunciation of his name. It's not exactly spoken a lot by developers or in interviews, and I tried to find examples, but I couldn't, so I'm just doing my best. His work has been incredible. He's responsible for some of my personal favorite tracks from the game. If you might be concerned that the music just isn't going to be the same, or it's not going to be as good anymore, well, you're right that it's not going to be the same, but Genshin's music is still going to be very, very good. While a lot of people credit him solely for the music of Genshin Impact, the truth is it was a collaborative effort of multiple different composers, many of them doing very good work and may have been responsible for some of your favorite tracks. And I would just like to say this is not to diminish his work. Yu-Peng Chen has done amazing, astounding work. I mean, honestly, who would have ever expected a mobile gacha game to have such a legendary soundtrack? When I think of Genshin's music, I honestly think of it in the same tier as games like Final Fantasy VII, Donkey Kong Country 2, or Persona 5. These games that have legendary soundtrack status that almost everybody knows or has heard of, whether they know it or not. So many people are quick to write off Genshin as just a mobile gacha game that just wants your money and that it's predatory. And while it is a gacha game and they do have a very negative reputation, I would say that Genshin goes so far beyond that, in no small part because of the music. Video game soundtracks are one of the most important parts about a video game's presentation for me. The soundtrack along with the gameplay is almost just as important to me as the gameplay itself. When I think back to games like Ragnarok Online and MapleStory, their music and the music I listen to while playing those games, whether they be related to the game or not, they are married together. And while I am woefully underqualified to talk about music in any kind of capacity other than, hey, I enjoy it because it sounds good to me, that doesn't mean I can't appreciate it or feel things because of it, One of Yu-Peng Chen's greatest pieces, in my opinion, was the Nahida demo. In my video, I gave this literally the highest rating I possibly could, and I think it is so far above and beyond every other demo, it's just ridiculous. The visuals were an incredibly powerful part of that demo, but the music is really what made it so special to me. And if you're a little unsure of who worked on some of your favorite tracks, I recommend you going to the fandom wiki to the stellar moments, particularly for the demos, and here you can click on each individual track and you can see who worked on what parts of what songs to see if maybe Yu-Peng Chen was the composer for some of your favorites. I can tell you that he was responsible for some of people's favorites like Raiden's and Zhongli's. And again, it's going to be a great loss to not have him working on the game anymore. He's very talented, and much like Final Fantasy's main composer Nobuo Uematsu, he proves to be very diverse in what kind of music he can compose. It's not all just one feeling. He can make you feel sad, he can make you feel happy, or he can make you feel pumped with energy when you hear something like Raiden's or Zhongli's demos. It's funny because when I think of one of the biggest comparisons between Breath of the Wild and Genshin Impact, everyone's favorite comparison, music is one of the biggest things. Breath of the Wild is mostly ambient music that you actually don't really pay attention to. It's got a few memorable tracks in there that do stand out, but they're honestly not that frequent. Opposed to Genshin, that almost every track from somewhere is memorable in some way, shape, shape, or form. Whether it be making you feel nostalgic and at home sitting in Mondstadt, and not to mention the fact that they actually went out of their way to make day and night forms for a lot of these places, it makes the places really feel alive, and you're not just hearing the same loop no matter what like in a lot of other games. Or you could be hearing something absolutely epic and intense like Scaramouche's boss fight. These are things that aren't relying on demo music, which is technically outside the game, despite the fact that they are in game due to rhythm events, showing that it's not just the demo music that's making the music of Genshin Impact so legendary, and particularly Yu-Peng Chen's contributions. Despite the fact that it is incredibly sad that he left, I still have complete faith that they're going to kill it. That the team that still works on Hoyo-Mix and with Hoyoverse to make Genshin Impact's music is going to continue to do amazing work. And hopefully the amazing work that Yu-Peng Chen did inspires them to continue that level of quality. And give love to the other composers. Yu-Peng Chen got a lot of the credit, and he does deserve a lot of credit. It's just, so does everyone else who worked on the music. They're all doing amazing jobs. I'm very thankful for Yu-Peng Chen and the role he played in making Genshin's music what it is today. The music is probably a big reason of why it's so popular. The demos pop off every time they're released, definitely in no small part due to the amazing music along with them. Thankfully, they're not unaware of this fact. They actually celebrate the music quite a bit, as do the players. And I hope that with time, enough people that don't even play the game learn about the game's music. I mean, how many people know about Persona's music? Because I always joked about it being like the unofficial music of YouTube. So many people used it and they spread it. It's still a very popular game anyway, and a lot of people have played Persona or at least know about it, but you know, you get the point. I hope more people know about Genshin's music than I think they do, because I honestly think a lot of people writ the game off as a gacha game and they didn't even care to learn about it. Those people really missed out if that's the case. Okay, I think that's enough of my aimless ramblings that in a lot of places were probably very messy and scattered, but I love the music and I've always wanted to find a way to talk about it, and this was a good reason to. So I wish him the best of luck in what he goes on to do, and I look forward to seeing his work in the future because he truly is an amazing talent.